how much kidnappers are picking for victims.
My thing is, government should, I think, all the stakeholders get that, and I think we get that. The 3% for the oil producing community is too low.
So the support that is needed, and once you get the support, your energy will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Yes, good morning. Welcome to Inside Nigeria, the last edition for this week, January 5th, 4th, 2022. My name is Winifred Ugwebo, and it's my pleasure to always host our public affairs analyst, Mr. Majid Tahiru. Mr. Majid,
Winifred,
you know I always feel glad when I have you.
and I'm always happy to be there.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
granting
for
us your
having me
presence
today again.
this Friday morning. And as usual, we have 4 papers on our menu for review this morning. And of course, we'll be starting with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership. Leadership this morning says APC plunges into deeper crisis as factional groups reject new state ESCOs. APC plunges into deeper crisis as factional groups reject new state ESCOs. It has potpourri of stories as riders. First, it says ESCOs inaugurated without oath of office. Aregbeshola's campaign office attacked. Is an exercise in futility. Magnus Abe's group. We won't recognize Kana Zulu leadership, say Alero supporters. We are still consulting, Lai Mohammed's loyalists say. Benue Niger factions head for court. Wow. Mr. Majid, we saw yesterday the fracas that took place, some of the videos that went viral. We
Yes.
saw the videos, APC. So in fact, one of our correspondents, APC correspondent, was even attacked.
So
Yes.
it tells you that the APC is having a very big crisis currently. And again, let me commend leadership newspapers.
Thank you.
This is a very detailed lead story.
This story.
Very detailed. I mean, it's a product of investigation journalism, but in a hurry because something happened yesterday and today.
Yes.
You have all the shades, all the
Shades.
sides to the story.
Yes.
So it's quite commendable
Thank
because the APC is the ruling party. So what happens to the APC? The rest of Nigeria must be
Affected.
affected, and we have to all be worried and concerned about what happens internally in the APC. But you see what's happening in the APC is simply a failure of party management system in Nigeria. The political party is the brain box of any democracy. Part of the failure of governance we're having today is actually as a result of the failure of party management system in Nigeria. You see, the struggle we are saying is because people know that the political party is the only platform that enables you to get elected. So there is this mortal combat. It's bloody. It's lethal. Everybody is trying to outdo one another to have a hold of the party structure, especially a ruling party, with all the advantages of incumbency, in order to secure export on the sharing table, where the national cake will be shared, as a senator, governor, whatever it is. So that's what you see happening, and it's not supposed to be so in a democracy. Political parties are supposed to be organic. If you allow the people to take ownership of the political parties, and the parties are structured along ideological lines, you won't have this struggle.
Yes.
It should be a win-win for everybody. So they are going to have this intense struggle for the structure because
the soul of the party.
The patronage system is the only reward system for Nigerian politics, as it is. Another we need to move away from it as fast as possible. You see, the easiest way to have achieved that would have been the direct primary option. I keep saying this. If you allow for direct primaries, you are willing to have control over party structure as all members are equal stakeholders. But unfortunately, even the direct primary option has been bastardized by the same people because somebody will determine who is the party member or not. And so we need to come clean, really. And this failure will affect governance now and in the future. This failure is going to affect governance now and in the future. Because it is clear that certain power blocks within the party that enjoy support of the leadership of the party, the central, the supreme leadership of the party, and I mean the president,
Yes.
appear to have an upper hand here. And if that be the case, it means a lot of people will be shortchanged. And so the cycle of violent contestation for power continues to the detriment of governance. So it's something that we want to be concerned about.
Okay. Now I want to ask you, will you say that it is a case of the chicken coming home to roost? Because we saw the how the APC was formed at the onset. That was 2015. Now had to
Yes,
wrestle
power from
government,
the
yes, from
PDP
government. And one would have thought that over the years, at least almost 8 years now, 7 years and
and a
plus,
half.
they would have been able to structure the party in a place. And
Yes,
now we are having this. So
that
will
is
you
even
say,
that is where they actually failed the most.
mm,
You see, one would have expected the president, leader of the party,
mm,
he would have led this process of structuring this party along the lines of economic,
mm,
environmental, and other interest groups, under interest within the party, such that the party begin to reflect
mm,
the economic and security needs, the environmental needs of Nigerian people.
mm,
And so when the people that look at the how do you call it, the manifesto of the APC, their policy proposed programs to say, okay,
mm,
as a trader in this community, I think this party best suits my interest. So
mm,
they become members. And then they vote for the candidates who best
mm.
itemize or articulate these ideals and who can be trusted the most to implement them. So you begin to see this organic approach towards party structuring. And so by now you would have seen a very orderly party structure
Mm,
that will, without supervision, go out and cast their vote for their preferred candidates,
mm,
knowing that it's going to be a win-win situation. It's like a competition between two good ideas or
yes.
multiple good ideas within the party. But unfortunately, the APC inherited the bad ways of the
Mm,
PDP. And patronage has become the only reward system, no longer good governance.
mm,
You know, in a democracy, the reward system of participation in politics is good governance. That
yes.
is improved welfare and security.
Yes.
So all I need to do as a party member is cast my vote, even donate to the party,
Yes.
and sit back and allow the policy of the party to impact positively in my business.
Mm,
If I'm a student, I'll get student loans probably,
yes.
I'll get scholarship, I'll get better funding for my educational activities or scholarships. If I'm a trader, I will get more incentive to be a better trader. If I'm a manufacturer, I'll get certain kind of benefits. So all I need to do is to support the party and go back to my business and wait for the party to affect me positively.
Mm,
If I'm a farmer, I get improved security. Things like this. But
mm,
the party has not been able to aggregate this interest.
mm,
And so it has remained a matter of who gets what, when, and how, depending on your ethnicity, religion, and who you know.
yes.
And that is what you are seeing at the end of coming close to the end of the term of the current administration. You are seeing this crisis because it's a fallout of the inability to transform the APC into a truly ideological political party
Person.
with clear purpose, clear vision, clear mission on how to enhance Nigerians' welfare and security. So that failure is what you see happening today. So the only way to get benefit is to be at the table. It's either you're an elected member or you're very close to the circle of elected members.
Independence.
So that's why you have seen the scope for the party leadership structure.
Now, with what we saw yesterday, what played out yesterday, and the convention is on the 26th of this month. So, how will you, and are we going to have a success? Is APC going to have a successful convention at the end of the day with what played out
Some
yesterday?
people have actually opined that those who fixed the date for the convention may not actually have actually intended that convention to take place. That there is something also in the offing that is not so very clear at this point.
Mm,
It's like the APC is pregnant with a very troublesome child that is kicking and troubling the pregnant mother,
mm,
and so people are confused as to what this woman is going to bet at the end of the day.
mm,
What is it? Is it a child? Is it a twin? Is it what exactly is it?
mm,
Is it a monster? Is it even an animal human being? Nobody knows yet. But there's something in the offing that is also adding to all of this confusing
mm,
situation within the APC. And I see a lot of people going to court. They
mm,
won't attempt to stop the convention based on the fact that some of those that will be voting in that convention are going to be, their legitimacy is going to be challenged.
yes.
People will say these are not the properly constituted escorts.
Mm,
Again, if they had allowed the people, look, if you have a calling register, people will line up and vote for their party executives. You see, again, like about the issue of direct primaries. When the president made the excuse of it's going to be cumbersome security, I begin to ask myself, in all party constitutions in Nigeria, Party executives, what you are seeing now,
Mm.
are supposed to be elected through a direct process. Now you cannot decide to say, okay, since you've done this, if you want to do that, if you want to do an indirect delegate election,
Mm.
you cannot allow those that have been elected through this process to now go ahead to elect candidates. But if you feel that it's not democratic enough, you can allow all members, including the elected people, to elect. What I'm saying is the foundation of the process is direct primaries.
Mm.
So I'm still asking, how did this ESCOs emerge without the people voting directly? And why was the reason that the president gave for not signing that electoral act?
Mm.
Why didn't you see them play out in the process leading to the election of some of these executives that are being contested now?
Yes.
So everything boils down to
And you know,
democratization
the fallout
process
of
within
that
the parties.
state congresses that took place was that they had about 22 factions, and they were not able to resolve it until
That is
now.
because there was no direct voting. You see, people didn't vote. Some strongmen in the party decided to trump their preferred candidates and declare them the winner. Nobody went to the field to do proper voting. And until we learn to go back to the field, to go back to the people, I say, choose your leaders. Look, this is as simple as NUG election, for example, union election.
Mm.
I mean, unions have members across the country.
Yes.
Unions have plenty of members in the
It
regional
was
and local
direct
level.
because we always go to go and vote.
Everybody goes
for
to vote
NUJ
and it
chairman.
ends
Yes.
peacefully. Why are political parties supposed to be in charge of our affairs?
Mm.
That are supposed to be more organized than your NUJ, your NBA, your NMA, all. The political parties are supposed to be the most organized groups in this country because the leadership is actually thrust upon them.
Mm.
So how come parties are not able to organize a simple process of electing their leadership from ward through local government to state and federal level without this rancor? So you now begin to understand why the economy, why our security situation, why the entire country is in leadership crisis, governance inertia, governance inactivity. It is because of the political party disorganization that the entire system is disorganized. And so we must address this issue squarely. And again, it depends on the leadership of the party. When the state president is the leader of the party, he's not going to decide who gets what, when, and how. No. It's for him to lead the party through a democratization process.
Yes.
He must be the one to lead the way. And he must be the one to ensure that people, the members, elect their leaders at will, freely and fairly. You won't have this rancor.
Mm. And now the litigations are going to come out even after the convention. Like for instance, leadership reported that Benue Niger factions head for court.
Yes, because people are aggrieved. And since they cannot get justice within their party, since there's no democracy within the party, they have to resort to judicial process. And I'm saying our democracy should have matured beyond this level.
Mm.
Where people have to go to the courts to get
Justice.
judgment or get elected into political party offices.
Mm.
What is difficult in simply electing a group of people that can man the affairs of the party? Why am I making it difficult? Again, it's because patronage
Mm.
and difference of the state to contract appointments and all
Yes.
have become the only reward system. If you're not inside, you are completely disadvantaged from the outside. The economy is in comatose, insecurity is down there.
Mm.
You have police supposed to protect you. So everybody wants to. It's like the 200 million people in Nigeria trying to squeeze themselves onto that dining table of sharing the national cake. By all means, that's what you see playing out in the APC.
Thank you so much. From APC, we're moving over to the next paper on our menu this morning, and that is THISDAY newspaper. This day says, Zulu, we must defeat ISWAP at all costs, else Boko Haram will be child's play. Zulu, we must defeat ISWAP at all costs, else Boko Haram will be child's play. Says it's time to consider hiring mercenaries. Canvasses change in security agencies' recruitment process. Government tracks identifies 96 financials, 123 companies, 33 bureau de change, others involved in terrorism. That is on security. And of course, another paper has the same story close to the one of this day, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune says federal government links 123 companies, 33 bureau de change to ISWAP Boko Haram. This is on Nigerian Tribune this Friday, 4th February 2022.
And as I write on the front page of the Tribune says, ISWAP can take over Nigeria if unchecked now.
Oh, yes, it's true.
My dear sister, I'm unhappy to confirm to you that Governor Zulum can't be more right than this. It's absolutely right. It is true. In fact, it can be put better. than he has put it.
Mm.
People underestimate ISWAP. People don't know the meaning of ISWAP and what it can do. Boko Haram is a child's play. ISWAP is much more deadly, and ISWAP has the potential to take over Nigeria. There's something he's not saying, and I'll say it today. ISWAP has legitimacy among the predominantly Muslim communities of the Northwest and the extension of Nigeria.
Mm.
This is sad to say because you know why? ISWAP shares the same philosophy, the same ideology with mainstream Muslim theocracy in Nigeria, and that is the aspiration for an Islamic state or a Sharia governed territory within Nigeria's secular constitutional democratic order. I have expressed this concern severally.
Mm.
I've said it that there's no difference between a state in Nigeria that implements Sharia and has a Hizbah and what ISWAP is trying to do.
Mm.
Now, ISWAP do not kill Muslims, and it's important we lay this fact there. They don't kill Muslims deliberately. They only kill Muslims that are part of the armed forces, civilian JTF, or aid workers. They don't. Their targets are non-Muslims. And what we have seen in Borno is that ISWAP has been able to successfully infiltrate the communities. That hitherto had come under this indoctrination over time, this religious intolerance, hateful preachings over time, that actually gave us to Boko Haram in the first place. Let me put it simply. What you see ISWAP trying to put to practice today through the force of arms is what has been preached and preached over time in the past 5 decades. The Pantami story reveals much about this. I can assure that Pantami is not alone in that most of us now know about it. There are many Pantamis across the country, and the pantamization of the mainstream Islamic theocracy in Nigeria or theology in Nigeria is one is entrenched. It is similar to what ISWAP is preaching. That's why people like us have advocated for a reform within that theological framework that characterizes the Muslim religion in Nigeria today. We must embark on massive reform. The truth is, no amount of bullets can defeat ISWAP. No, it cannot. It's an ideological warfare. An ideology that enjoys mainstream sanction. You see, Boko Haram is not being preached only in Sambisa. It's being preached everywhere. In mosques, in the mornings, in the afternoons, Friday sermons, Eid sermons. It is this that needs to change. Yesterday, there was a crisis in Kwara State over hijab.
Yes.
You need to go and see comments on social media. You need to go and see arguments. That is nothing short of an extension of the Boko Haram ideology. I say this with all sense of responsibility because I am a Muslim myself. I want to live in a country that is free for all religious groups, that is equitable, that is secular, and protects everybody's religious interests. I don't want to be dominated, and I don't want to dominate anybody. That is my philosophy. And I've seen countries where one group dominates the other. In Northern Ireland in UK, because the Anglicans, or the Protestants dominated the Catholics, it created almost a century-old civil war that ended only a few years ago. I'm talking about 2 groups of Christians. Now, I've seen what's happening in India, where the Hindu-dominated country appears to be emasculating the Muslim minorities. I've seen it in Myanmar, where Buddhist monks and Buddhist extremists are actually exterminating Rohingya Muslims. I've seen it everywhere. So I don't want a situation where in my own country and in areas where Christians dominate, Christians will emasculate Muslims, and where Muslims dominate, the same thing happens. I want to live in a free world where I'm free and I'm able to practice my Sharia faith. I do not want to impose my Sharia law on anybody. As long as the Constitution of Nigeria allows me the practice of my Sharia faith, the Constitution does not impose on me the duty to take alcohol or commit fornication or commit any of the things that offend my religion. I do not also seek to impose my values on other people. Let the Constitution also guarantee others their own freedom. Now, it's unfortunate that a lot of us do not know the difference between Sharia faith and Sharia law. And so most of us are actually giving legitimacy to ISWAP activities. That is what this government is trying to say. As the frontline governor of this crisis, you understand what he's saying more than anybody. It's an ideological issue. It is the Muslim community in the long run that has the responsibility to defeat ISWAP and not the Nigerian government per se. Let me now tell you this. My fear is when power shifts to the south and a Christian emerges, ISWAP will gain more momentum than this. ISWAP will gain more legitimacy. You will see ISWAP becoming like a region now resistance group against what some people might perceive as the domination of the government by maybe Christians. This is the danger. This is what the governor of Borno is not going to say as it is. But I will say, with an analyst, I will say it as it is. So we must prepare for this. And the government of the day, that is led by a Muslim, has huge responsibilities now to mobilize, particularly the Muslim North, to begin to defeat and combat the ideology of Boko Haram from the communities, from the grassroots. If you leave it unchecked, I can assure you that for every Boko Haram member you kill in the northeast, there are tens, if not hundreds, that are willing to replace them in the battlefield. Currently, they are fighting a religiously sanctioned war. They think they are fighting for God. They've been told, in essence, that they need to do this for God.
Yeah.
So the person that goes to a school, a Baptist school in Kwara, to go and throw stones because the school would allow small children to put on hijab, is not different from the person shooting guns in the northeast that wants to impose an Islamic state. That's no difference. The hijab crisis is a needless one.
It is.
And the Kwara state government was very careful. The Kwara state government is one that is headed by a Muslim. The Commissioner for Education that is making certain kind of statements that I've been worried about is a Muslim. And you are adjudicating on the side, taking side with Muslims in this matter, which is not supposed to be so. These schools are missionary schools. They didn't ask you to come and take over them. You actually went to them to say, look, so that you can reduce your fees and allow access to quality education that you offer to people, everybody, we will take one of your responsibilities like funding, paying staff salary and all of that, so that you can crash your school fees to almost rock bottom so that people can have access to the school while you maintain your Christian heritage. This was the agreement at the beginning. So they have a right to have some level of control. And they say, okay, we don't want hijab in our school. The only way you can get to accept hijab is through dialogue, continuous dialogue until a point where they willingly accept. For as long as they do not accept, you have absolutely no right to go to that school to throw stones or force a children into that school. You don't have such a right. The only thing you can protest against is if they deny Muslims admission into that school. If they do not, if they fail or assess Muslims different from Christians based on certain discriminatory parameters, you can protest. But if this one is not there and they allow free access to Muslims as much as they do for Christians, you cannot go there and begin to fight for a religious symbol to be allowed in the school. That is a Christian school. You do not have a right to do that. In fact, doing that is un-Islamic. It negates the tenets of Islamic religion or Islamic faith. So I'm saying this because there's a nexus between what we do in the public, in our common places, and what ISWAP is doing. There's a nexus. Most of us are Boko Haram without knowing it, ideologically speaking. And that is why ISWAP is likely going to gain momentum the moment you have a non-Muslim leading this country. And people begin to feel marginalized, maybe with one or two appointments, people will now turn to ISWAP as a Islam group. It happened in the Southeast, where IPOB absolutely became. So we've seen it happen. OPC was once also.
No, like what you're saying, Mr. Majid, sorry to vote in, is what the Niger State government is saying, that Boko Haram in some communities, they share pamphlets, they are trying to recruit members to their food. They tell them that look at what we are going to do for you.
But
just in line with what your views.
Look, Boko Haram, ISWAP is not Islamic, no doubt about it. But they are Muslim. It's a Muslim organization. And Muslims should stop living in denial. You cannot be doing what Boko Haram is preaching and claiming that Boko Haram is not there. They are not Muslims. They are doing what you have in your mind. And the only way we can extinguish this burning fire is for us to change our mindset. We must begin to reconcile our faith with Nigeria's secularity. Secularism does not mean anti-religion. It doesn't mean anti-God. Secularism simply means your religion will not dominate mine. But both of them can coexist under a peaceful, united atmosphere. It's as simple as that. As obtainable in the Western democracies. Now, it is this secularity that allows a Muslim to be the mayor of London today.
Yes.
That allows Muslims to be in America and practice free. That allows Muslims in America to challenge successfully the Muslim travel ban imposed by President Trump. And a judge, a Christian judge, gave an order against the Christian president.
Yes.
That is actually an ideal Islamic state, where there's freedom, where there's democracy, where there's liberty. Today, we must learn from Afghanistan. We've seen when Afghanistan has taken over by Taliban. Trying to implement this same archaic, misplaced ideology in the name of Islam. What has been the fate of Afghanistan today? Misery, death, hunger, poverty, insecurity. We should learn from this. We shouldn't go that way and try to escape from the airport to the West that you are preaching against today. So we must preach unity and peaceful coexistence amongst us as a people, irrespective of our faith, irrespective of our religious practices, irrespective of ethnicity. This is lacking at the moment. Some people are profiting from political Islam, which has dovetailed into insurgency, jihadism. Because yes, they use religion as a tool for political negotiation, which must be condemned. And that's why I commend the Borno State governor. Zulum is one governor in Nigeria that's fighting Boko Haram with Boko Haram. What do I mean? Where they've destroyed schools, Zulum is building schools. Where they are saying nobody else should exist except people of their own faith, Zulum is giving a sense of belonging and inclusion to Christians and non-Muslims that are resident in his state. He's creating an inclusive state as a bulwark against Boko Haram ideology. That needs to be replicated across the Muslim north. And Zulum does not practice political Islam. He does not do that. So he's doing well, and that's why he's now warning that something has to be done. It is sad that Nigeria cannot defeat ISWAP, a ragtag army. It is sad. That's because we're not sincere among ourselves. And I'm saying the president today is an influential figure from the Muslim north. He has a responsibility and a duty to begin this process and not hand over this problem to the next administration. Otherwise, ISWAP might take over Nigeria. If unchecked as won by Governor Zulum, this thing is deeper than he's even saying. But he's very right. But it is deeper. And we need to unearth this issue and solve it now. We saw this thing coming. ISWAP is so clever. They don't kill Muslims. And so they are able to lay ambush on armed forces. They've killed many soldiers between 2015 that adopted these tactics and now. The community no longer feel threatened by ISWAP. And they did something. You know, they adopted the Dapchi school girls.
You know, they also killed the commander of Boko Haram. You forgot?
Of course. Because Boko Haram.
It was not even the federal.
There was a problem. There was a split in the ranks of the so-called Boko Haram into ISWAP and then the Boko Haram. Boko Haram kills everybody. To them, if you're not with them, you're not a Muslim.
Yes.
So ISWAP decided that this is actually working against our interests. It's not making us have the level of followership and legitimacy that we desire. So they dedicated their energy first to eliminating Abu Shekau, incorporating his commanders, and they've launched a war. And that's why the government must stop this foolish, very foolish policy of absorbing so-called repentant terrorists into the society. This people can never repent. It's not possible. Once a terrorist, always a terrorist. They don't repent, they can't repent. I know this for sure. So what you need to do is to go back to society to make sure that nobody joins them anymore. So the radicalization will happen in the society, not on people that have already been radicalized to the point that they've taken arms against the state. It should be a total war, completely without reservation. And if you do not do that, and you allow this to continue to degenerate, it will come that we can no longer fight it. It becomes so entrenched. And my fear is, with the level of extremism spread across the Muslim world in Nigeria today, there's extremism there. We must deal with extremism amongst us. If we don't deal with it, we will continue to give legitimacy to ISWAP. And that's why I'm calling on state governors in the north to abolish Sharia laws in these states. Abrogate Hizbah. This makes you it puts you in the same league with ISWAP. Stop all forms of religious politicking, religious symbolism for now. Let us recover our territory. Otherwise, we will lose Nigeria to these people, particularly Muslim dots. It is very serious. It's a very serious issue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Majid, for that. But don't you think a Christian leader will have the embodiment to do justice?
It will backfire. But when it goes all out on these people will see it as he's trying to persecute us. He's trying to fight our religion.
We saw
it happened to Jonathan's first time. When Hejirika was taking the war to the insurgents, they accused him of carrying out an agenda.
Yes.
They said they're going to petition him to the International Criminal Court for human rights abuse and genocide. So I know what I'm saying. A Muslim is best suited to lead this struggle. But in any case, the Muslim community should not wait for somebody to come and lead it. We must start this struggle. The Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs in Nigeria and all other related bodies, the March on National Islam, all other Muslim bodies must begin to work in synergy to reverse this ideology. It is a cancer that has infected our society, it has infected our religion, and it's threatening to destroy from within. The biggest victims of Boko Haram remains Muslims, and it is a Muslim land. Let me tell you something. Bishop is very clever. They are not likely to even go beyond northern Nigeria. So I don't know, there's a lot of Nigeria that will lose that will come under the control of Israel.
No, they will not go. I don't
They,
think
because they want to carve out a
Beyond.
territory that they can concentrate on.
Yes.
And the target is actually the Muslim North. And so the Muslim North must rise up beyond sentiments of religious intolerance, extremism, and combat this ideology. It is doing them more harm than good. For there's no good at all in it. And until this is done, Israel will continue to grow in influence. They're going to have supporters. You see the number of people that they say are supporting Israel. It is because this group of people, these people that are putting, those that have been elected, the companies, the individuals, they believe in the ideals of Israel. They believe in the cause.
But just
They
like what
believe
you
in
said,
it.
Mr. Madi, it will take a whole time to erode this ideology. I remember many years ago, right here in Abuja, we had a young a shoemaker, a cobbler. And we're like, why are you not in school? When I say many years ago, I'm talking about maybe 17, 16 years ago. And he said Boko Haram. We're like, what's Boko Haram? Then,
Boko was haram. It's a haram school is haram.
I'm like, what is Boko Haram?
That was how it
My friend
started.
could understand. I said, no, why can you say Boko Haram? If not, I'll use K to flog you. So you're supposed to be saying, you're telling me Boko Haram. Then Boko Haram had not even started.
Exactly. That's Boko Haram is so just about that. Boko Haram
Yes,
started a long time
that's what
ago.
I'm saying.
The ideology
A small
predates.
child, he
Yes.
had that ideology.
You see that this anti-Western sentiment that is brewing, that has been there, and I wonder why people are not able to think.
Yeah, in Maraba then. I think it might be.
So it's an issue. So it is deep-seated. Israel is far more dangerous, more powerful, more influential, more lethal than Boko Haram. Boko Haram is a child's play, really. Israel is a purposeful and deliberate jihadi group that is targeted to carve out a territory within the Nigerian states. And they are succeeding at it because we are dealing with them with the approach we are using to deal with other insurgencies. We need to bring in the ideological component. We need to combat this ideology, and that should start from within the community. The community must rise up against Israel. And in the interim, if you ask me, the civilian JTF in Borno, we need to incorporate them into the civil defense. And I made the proposal before. The civil defense, rather than being scrapped, should put to proper use.
That's what I want to tell you, that when you said they need to be incorporated into civil defense, I looked at you and I'm like, are you not aware that it has even passed first reading?
So I wonder why a legislator will get up and he has no business, he has nothing else to talk about and to reduce. Our soldiers are not enough, they were stressed. The police is the same thing. I am trying to now reduce further the strength of our armed services.
He said they will be absorbed into the Nigerian police force.
No, the police has a separate function. The
Yes.
police is to, the police function is not to fight insurgency. It is law enforcement. That is,
Yes,
in an orderly society, that's the only way the police itself can function. They're not trained to fight insurgency. No,
yes.
there has to be law and order. So the few miscreants can be contained by the police through the judicial process. But we have such extraneous issues as Boko Haram, herdsmen, terrorism, and all of that.
Kidnappings,
This kind of, you need a bit of extra measure. So even in the US, you have state marines, you have the federal marines, you have some other, and individuals actually armed. So you have some other support security network that combat such extraneous issues and allow the police to focus on its core function. So the civil defense can come in handy now. Incorporate civil into the civil defense. Now the difference is this: there should be a volunteer corps or a volunteer unit that should be created in the civil defense. That volunteer unit allows state governments, individual corporate bodies, everybody to ask, okay, we want you to hire 100 people into this corps for this community. Arm them, train them, put them on the payroll, on like their defense officer, but their welfare and armament will be borne by this group of individuals. Okay, you understand the point. So that, okay, if this community needs 100 people to be able to secure properly, so that you do not allow people to haphazardly bear arms, civil defense take in 100 people, train them, give them all the necessary training, give them the ammunition and arms they need. But their monthly pay, their welfare, all the things welfare, will pay it into the civil defense force. They use to pay these people. So it does not put burden on the budget of civil defense itself. So now civilian JTF is being financed by the Borno state government. So they can say, okay, civil defense take over civilian JTF, give them better arms so that they'll be using the right caliber of arms to defend their communities, but they are not civil defense officers. But the only thing is they are in a volunteer, is like in a unit that is a volunteer corps, that people can even decide to volunteer free of charge if they like. Some say, okay, I can take care of two people and their welfare, they go in. Some say, okay, I manage 10,000 a month, but I want to fight that. Whatever is a volunteer thing. So their welfare will now be the responsibility of those that are volunteering to enrich that unit. That should now allow them to combat ISWAP and other groups and secure the community in addition to what the federal government is doing. Something should be done to farming communities. Something should be done to cattle breeding communities against cattle rustlers. People need to be given the capability to defend themselves around an organized system. So the civil defense comes handy. So all of the police that you need to arrest and prosecute, civil defense can actually defend and attack and kill if you need to protect the people without going through the rules of engagement. So that's what I think we should be doing now. In addition to this rolling back of the ideology, we need to start arming communities through civil defense as a start. So that, look, anybody can, just put some Nigerians together and contribute money to fight COVID. That's okay, we want to create a fund, 10, 20, 30 billion in civil defense for the purpose of volunteer vigilante communities so that they can be incorporated and be given the right caliber of arms. You can't keep fighting a group that has sophisticated weapons with their guns. It makes no sense. It's suicidal. And they are killing soldiers and they're killing civilians here. And so people that are from the community will have the guts, the zeal, and the determination more to protect their wives, children, and farmland and homeland and cattle against invaders than the soldier that is recruited from Akwa Ibom and then posted to Bororo. And because it doesn't feel as if it's homeland. That also brings me to the issue of changing recruitment. You see, this man put everything in perspective. Changing the recruitment process. Our current recruitment process into the security agencies does not make it possible to fight this war. It's done on patronage. It is done on nepotism. It is done on cronyism. So I didn't go into the army to go and fight war. I came here to get the benefit I can get as a soldier from the system. So why am I ready to go and die? I won't do that. So that itself has to also change. For me, if you ask me, let them suspend quota system eventually in the recruitment process. Let it be strictly on merit for now. Let it be those that just want to fight and die for the country.
But there's an issue that came up recently that the PRO raised the alarm that Southerners are not applying to the police force.
How can somebody apply to the police force when consistently you have appointed IGPs from a particular part of the country in the last 7.5 years? We'll talk about national unity and cohesion. This is what we're talking about. When you have made it clear that there is a ceiling for Southeasterners in the security agencies, why would anybody from Southeast want to come and join the security agency? When you have made it known that no matter how good you are as a Southeasterner, you can't head any security agency in Nigeria. Why would they want to? It's the same thing. Look at. Okay. I don't want to just go. I don't want to put certain kind of old conversations. We've seen it happen. We've said, okay, this person is more suitable and more qualified. He was kept. His junior was brought in from the right part of the country. It happened in the army, happened in the civil defense, happened in the police force. We've seen it happen severally. So there's this apathy towards the state that will not allow you to get to the Senate. Why would you want to go in there? And that is impacting negatively in the war against the security. So what I'm talking about. So we need, look, national cohesion and unity is key. Everything must be done towards that. If you don't have unity and cohesion, you cannot defeat your common enemies, such as Boko Haram. Name them. Neither can you even fight, what do you call it, against corruption. You cannot fight war against corruption. You can't also fight, combat the degenerating or contain the. You can't. So these are things that are mutually reinforcing. You have to do them in concert to be able to secure this country and provide welfare for the citizens. So it is something that we need to interrogate. We have to expand this discourse. Otherwise, just as the gentleman said, this swap will take over. It will be a big challenge. And again, let me reiterate it. It is clear that boy is likely to shoot to the south. He's likely to be a Christian. That is the time to watch out for this swap. Because most people today that are not supporting this swap, because one of their own is in power, are likely to give this swap certain kind of moral, financial support. All it takes is for some clerics to politicize, to introduce religion into the discussion in politics, and maybe make the claim that the president has emerged is marginalizing the Muslim North by his appointment or something of that nature, some flimsy issues. Before you know, these people gain momentum. So we need to reconcile this country, we need to heal it, heal all the fault lines. Otherwise, this thing will happen in our very face. It will happen.
Thank you so much. Well, viewers, on this, we are going on a break. When we come back, we're moving over to business entirely, and that is national economy. Don't go away, just stay tuned. We'll be back.
sponsorship, and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
So welcome back. You're still watching Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television, and my name still remains Winifred Ubebo. With me in the studio is a public affairs analyst, Mr. Majid Dahiru. Mr. Majid, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. So far,
I
so
look
good.
forward to seeing you more on this program. So we are taking the last paper on our menu today. It's our sister publication, National Economy. On National Economy, it says 12 times ahead as petrol subsidy payments rise by 15 trillion naira. 12 times ahead as petrol subsidy payments rise by 15 trillion naira. Nigeria's economy on the brink of collapse. Experts.
Is that 15 trillion or 1.5 trillion?
Okay, 1.5. Oh, sorry, I didn't see the thought. Rise by 1.5 trillion naira. 12 times ahead as petrol subsidy payments rise by 1.5 trillion naira. And experts say Nigeria's economy on the brink of collapse. That is on the national economy.
Well, economy on the brink of collapse. I think we're as good as
But first and foremost, why are petrol stations not selling fuel?
there's uncertainty.
Most of them are closed,
There-
and the
there-
ones
there
that are
is-
selling, they use
there is-
about 1 pump.
There's uncertainty about the sustainability of the subsidy payment regime. The government clearly has run out of ideas on how to solve this problem. The government also was right not to have jacked up the price at this time, because it would have led to a collapse of not just the government but the state itself.
Yes, they said so that due to security reports.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Nobody should try it. So again, I think that's why the fact that the government may not have done so, but I want to commend them for that decision. You see, we all as a people need to come together to find a solution to this problem. I'll tell you something. I wouldn't blame entirely the Buhari administration for this mess. I'll tell you why. When they came in, the preponderance of ideas, of economic thinking, of solutions, was one that didn't place emphasis on revamping refineries. You know, Nigeria is dominated by neoliberal economy. People will tell the government has no business in business, just free the system, it will correct itself, all sorts of economic fallacies. Somehow the president decided to take that easy route, very lazy approach to governance, if you ask me. And what they did in 2016 was the no subsidy on the advert, and it was held. If you recall the no subsidy, NLC called for strike, the strike failed. Don't forget this.
Yes.
Nigeria supported because we have been convinced that no. The subsidy has to go, it's evil, and we let it go. Don't forget that in 2012, when Jonathan increased fuel by no subsidy, people like Oshomole, people like Sanusi, people like design analyst Modeko, Konjola, all the leading, bright minds in Nigeria, all supported subsidy removal, and they've not changed their opinion up to today. But curiously, none of them actually told government to fix refineries. They will not tell government to privatize refineries, commercialize, liberalize. Nobody has told government to do the basic needful, which is to fix refineries. And so this government came and followed that pattern. The thinking then was the price by themselves will come down because of the competition. You know what happened? It happened that within that period, the currency was also devalued.
Yes.
And so independent marketers and major marketers too could not import or could not afford dollars to import petrol. So the NNPC became the sole importer of petrol. And when the anticipated reduction in price didn't happen, and in fact, the landing cost increased beyond 145, this government tactically, knowing the fact that this policy hasn't worked, started what was called under the cover. Since NNPC was the one reporting, they were not selling it at a loss. It continued until the COVID when prices crashed, and of course, price of petrol naturally reduced. And once there was a bit of recovery in the global market, it's also sparked up to what it is today. So in essence, the idea that if you keep importing and allowing importation and remove subsidy, the price will come up, it didn't work. The price keeps going up because even for nothing, the more you import into Nigeria, that alone is enough to depress the naira against the dollar. Because the volume of dollar you need to gather will definitely depreciate the naira against the dollar. So that alone will always add to the cost and the landing cost. So it makes no sense. So this government followed that advice until they got to this point and realized that, hey, it is not working. At this rate, prices will go to 1,000 naira, and Nigerians cannot take it. Not even Americans can afford to pay too high for PMS. You saw what happened the last time. Thank you very much. And so they have been fixed now. So I'm saying they've done their best. Let us as Nigerians begin a new thinking. My dear sister, let me ask you a question. It's not a shame or a complete disappointment that a state like Bielsa has no state-owned refinery.
Yes, it's so sad. And one would have expected that this Niger Delta
All the Niger Delta states are supposed to have a refinery,
exactly.
either state-owned or in collaboration with investors. It should have been the mainstay of their local economy.
They are not taking.
Do you know what Bielsa will make if Bielsa is the one supplying all of the joining non-oil producing states across its own sphere of influence of PMS, meaning the dollars you are sending to Europe will be going to Bielsa, Akwa Ibom, Delta, Edo, Imo, Abia, Rivers. Do you know what it? Do you know what this? Do you know the prosperity? Do you know if these states, for example, are able to feed us with domestic demands and also export it? Do you know the prosperity? Do you know the wealth that these states can make? So we need to start a conversation about the role of government in business ahead of 2023.
You know, but the Southwest did it that time now about cocoa. You know, they have cocoa house now. It was a regional
government must be involved in the means of production. As a developing economy, you can't run away from it. So you need to watch first and foremost.
I'm surprised that Niger
because we are all under the illusion that government has no business in business. So instead of coming here, I attack that fallacy, I attack that philosophy that it has ruined our economy. Government has business in business. The only business of government is to do business. And any government that cannot do business has no business meaning government. So if the states had accepted that they need to do business, most of the Nigerian states would have been able to refurbish, build new refineries. And they can get blocks. They can apply for blocks from the federal government, dedicated blocks to service these refineries. They will get it.
No, they are more interested in how to increase VAT.
How to increase VAT and taxes. That is the point. So with this, you don't increase VAT, you don't increase taxes because you are making so much money from externally generated revenues through export of the products. So nobody is thinking, my dear sister, this is not a problem for the federal government alone. The federal government cannot go on to continue to build refineries. No. All they can do now is to refurbish the four they have. Now, allow private sector people to also build. Dangote is building. Now, the Niger state must. Let us begin to tell them now that they should start building refineries in their states. We can build refineries. Let me tell you something. We can build refineries in your state.
Because you refuse to build refineries, you now have illegal people.
You destroyed 112 in one government. What does that tell you? There's a market for this. Why not build refinery in River State? One refinery. If each of the states have one refinery each, use your 30% monthly generation fund, use your monthly allocation fund, you can get low.
I want of their 13%.
No, they borrow money a lot. So most of the they borrow to say they want to do. I say it is nonsense. You don't borrow to do social infrastructure. Borrow to do business. Borrow to do business. I'm in support of borrowing now. But borrow not to come and start doing railway or fixing the NTA. No. If the government today say they want to borrow money to fix refineries, I'll support it. I want to borrow money to fix Ajakuta steel plants. So 100%. I want to borrow money to build refinery. Perfect. Want to join with China to build refinery so that we can supply domestic use and export. Excellent. I'm supportive of it. But don't go into partnership, financial borrowing, borrowing monies to come and do some very irrelevant things. When you have a refinery working and you're able to export 235 million liters of petrol a day, the profit from there, you guys do not build roads and bridges and railways as a social infrastructure for the people. So we need to begin to tell government that they have a role in the ministry of production. Otherwise,
so these incoming leaders.
So the agenda, we the agenda today. Enough of this balderdash. Saudi Arabia owns refineries as a state enterprise. Saudi Aramco is a state-owned enterprise. If they can do it, we should be able to do it. 10 of the leading oil companies in the world are state-owned. You see, the Europeans and Americans have a different trajectory. Don't look at them. We are not yet there. Let us look at those that have looked to escape our level of development to the next and are heading towards the first world, and so what they did. Singapore supports all their businesses. It's like government is in partnership with other private companies. It's the same thing with Japan. Of course, China is the leading state capitalist country in the world. Nigeria must adopt state capitalism. The state has to be involved. Governors can no longer afford to drive SUVs in the system. They don't have to have security board that they can blow up and down. They have to be very prompt every naira that comes to their state because it is now business. Until we agree to adopt this and strengthen our unity and cohesion, there is no way they can increase fuel price. They must bear this consequence of, because we are citizens. This is the irreducible minimum we can get to. Any increase in this, the government will collapse and the state will collapse. It is a national security matter at this point. So to be forewarned is beforehand. Don't tamper with fair price. But I agree that we cannot continue to pay what we don't have now. I understand. But let us begin to think of how to have it. And I'm saying we must rescind urgently that economic fallacious thinking that the government has no role in means of production. The government must take the lead. And let me end by saying this. Contrary to the trend narrative out there, that the private sector is the economy, it is not true. It is the government that drives the economy. Through its policies, foreign policy, domestic, local, monetary, fiscal, government drives the economy. The government is involved because it has a social contract with the people. The private sector is simply a symptom, it's just on the surface. What really drives it is the government. Government can no longer afford to sit idly by and think anybody can fix it. It won't happen. Government must be involved, and they have the capital, they have the capacity to drive this process. Again, Niger Delta State, it is a failure. They are not pardonable for 19 years. Or 21 years of democracy. You can't build one refinery. One. It's something that shouldn't have happened. So going forward, we need to put plans together from today on how to begin to build refineries. So that they can support the fall that the government is having, and we can now have self-sufficiency in refined petroleum, and we can now export and make the money we need. We talk about diversifying the economy. We're not even deep in the oil and gas industry. We're only exporting crude oil.
Yes.
If you export the entire value chain and you export everything exportable from refined petroleum,
there are so many.
It's enough to sustain a country.
Economy. Jelly, petrol, so many
things you can do.
Everything.
So what have we done about this? So we need it's not longer an excuse. So it's not the federal government alone that should bear the responsibility. No. The states are not doing enough, particularly oil-producing states. They're not doing anything in this regard. It's not the federal government business. It's not the federal government problem. They want devolution of power. They want this. But you cannot have refinery that the government law allows you to have. You can't. So it's how can we not trust with state police and other responsibilities?
Wow, so many takeaways from you this morning, Mr. Majid Mandari. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Like I said, I look forward to seeing more of you.
Inshallah.
Program. So, what viewers, this is where we end today's program Inside Nigeria. Don't forget to join us next week, Monday, for another fresh edition. Have a beautiful weekend, and don't forget, your safety is your personal responsibility. So do stay safe. I remain Winnie for the Global. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.